Hi, this is Vishal, and as you know that we are working with the coroutine examples and coroutine sessions. We are working, and we have done the previous two sessions before. On first sessions, we worked with the simple coroutine functionalities and some examples we have done. Then we work with the differences on the RX Java and the coroutine. Then we work with our room with the coroutine. So that's examples we worked before, and today we continue the tour and work with the coroutine plus retrofit. So all those who work with these sessions, please must watch my previous sessions, and that appreciated by all of you. Thank you so much for that. And so we continue this tour, and that is the very most important, because of we are working with the retrofit and most of the examples and most of the project, because of we need to fetch APIs data. So coroutine is your new architecture, and that means in new design patterns we can work with this. Okay, so how we can use this with the retrofit, so that's we discussed today. So the coroutine, as we discussed previously, that how we can use this coroutine, what's the meaning of that coroutine, and how we differentiate between the RX Java with the coroutines, and a lot of stuff. So hope all are doing good, and thanks again for your appreciations, those who putting the comments, because of as the busy schedule. So as get a time, I must watch that your comments be there, and reply it one by one, and as per your instruction or your requirement, I will upload more videos for you. So thank you so much, and now we continue this tour, but today we work most on practical session because of we working with the retrofit here. So just simply talk about how we can use that retrofit, and which kind of functionality, and how we can use the MVVM approaches in it. So these we have discussed, but little bit theory and more practical on that. So let's start it. First session of your retrofit, and third session of the coroutine. So now discuss it here. Okay, so let us start, and once we go through it, what we have done in our coroutine. So simply we discussed about the coroutine in our previous sessions. We worked with the coroutine, and how we can use that Kotlin X coroutines, and what is that library. We discussed about a lot of theories related to that, dependencies also, and we gave some examples related to that. So these we already discussed how the running block, and how we can use the asynchronous task with these coroutines, and what is the difference between the RX Java and the coroutines, because of both work as an asynchronous task, get accesses there. And we have done a lot of examples with the fetching data and callback patterns we have worked, and that means we can remove callbacks, how we can use that, this kind of removings on that. So these we have done in our previous examples, and room and retrofit, and in that we already worked in our last example, but today we discuss about the retrofit, as we told you that in our very first coroutine session that we will work on the retrofit in coming sessions. So today we discuss about that. Okay, and we gave lot of examples with the flow, and how the flow suspended functions we work on, how we can use that flow, and these all consumer, intermediately, and producers flow we can work. So first as I discussed you that if you are new, so just first go for our previous sessions of the coroutines. Okay, and my previous, the last session, that is the room with the flow. So you worked on that, how we can work with the databases be there. So these you have to work on. Okay, and now we can work with our lifecycle aware components, that is the most important. And we know that Kotlin coroutines provide an API that enables you to write the asynchronous scope. So with Kotlin coroutines, you can define a coroutine scope, which helps you to manage your coroutine should run. So that means, as we know that this is used for the asynchronous task, so you can use that asynchronous task with your live data. So on that cases, because of mostly we have done this kind of mistakes, because we avoid the memory leaking, so we can use that our MVVM approaches on that. And with the coroutine and retrofit, we can say that a long running task that can block the main thread and main safety allows you to ensure that any suspended functions can be allowed from the main thread, but it's on you that which by which you can make your app. So that means either you can choose the RX Java, that many examples, many sessions we have done on that. And now, because of according to the new architecture we are working, so that means coroutine also be a very good whenever you work with this kind of functionalities. So these be the two most important part whenever any discussion and or in an interview anybody asks you that, so you can see that coroutine are helpful in the two main problems. Number one, long running task that can block the main thread, so we can use, and main safely allows you to ensure that any suspended functions can be called for the main thread. Okay. And as we have done, this is our view model repository and your room, or either you can choose the retrofit. So on my previous sessions we already worked with the room, so now today we choose the retrofit. So here for the retrofit examples, these with the implementation we needed. So now on practically we can check that, and that's your and also we can say that the coroutine provides a way to avoid blocking a thread and replace it with a cheaper and more controllable operation. That is the most important line. So now we have to start with this and use this these implementations in our project, and let us start the practical and see how we can work in it, how we can make a view model factories, our models, then we get our data and lot of stuffs one by one. So let us start it. Okay, so let us start in Android Studio, and here what we needed, here you have to do with your IDs for the JetBrains, Kotlin, Android, and here we have implementations for the networking, and as per the new instruction you have to update your OK HTTP3, otherwise it will create a issue sometimes on the Google Play also. And this is your OK HTTP3, that's updated versions you needed, that's your retrofit. And we need a coroutines functionality as we have done our previous examples. So and also we have to need a converter for the JSON, as if we have used it many times with the retrofit. And this is the Picasso, you know that, for the image loading and whatever you want to that you can use that. And this is our lifecycle extensions for a simple view models and the lifecycle data. Okay, so but here we are using simple view model first, then we go for the lifecycle. And here this is the main activity, and here we can use recycler view. This is our inner layout, so that's a very simple structure, we can use it. So let us start it how we can create it, but before that we need to create a JSON. So you can just either you can make a JSON using the PHP file, and whatever be I'm using my local host, so you can use it, or I get it some movie list file from somewhere on the net, so that's with a simple movie. And here we have a category, name, image and description kind of data, and either you can create your own dynamic data with the PHP file, whatever be the requirement you can do that. So here it is a ID, image, title. So check your data which kind of array JSONs you are using, and just similar you can create your data model class. So now first we create our model class. So let's see. Okay, so first basic step according to the JSON, we have to create a simple data model class. So for that you can create a package, and that package is your model package. Okay, and inside that you have to create a Kotlin class, and that Kotlin class is called movie and whatever you want it, just like you can say the student and whatever be your class. Sorry, we have to create a data class. Either you can choose from there, but I am making like this. So for this we have to pass some values, and those values we can say that val, what's the name of that, you just copy it. Here I want to go with the category, so just use here, and that's your string. Okay, and now we have to go for our second val, and that val is your image URL. So that's your image URL, and that is a string. So that means you can use it either these two or all according to the JSON, whatever with your requirements. And then name, and you can use the name, and that is a string. And then go for the description. So this is a string. Okay, so either you can choose only two, whatever be your JSON according, you can use only two, or you can remove it, or you just go for the name and image, whatever be that. You can go for the ID. So this is, so as I told you that I just get it from the net, some example of the JSON, so I load it. Just my mean is that how you can implement that, and how you can use that retrofit as a coroutine functionality. So this is a simple data basic class, and now we have to go for our retrofit. So that we need to get access the API from your local database or whatever you want, wherever your server. So you can hit it and fetch that movie list on your site. So now go for our retro sections, how we can use it. So let's see. So after creating a data class movie, what to do? You just create two more folders for that. Number one, that is for your remote. That means we can get access our retrofit data be here. And number two, you can make it as a view model. So here you can put your view model classes be here. So now for the remote, what to do? You have to create a interface, and that is a Kotlin. Yeah, this is the interface. Okay, so for this interface you can just say that retro. I think we already used it before, and many times we discussed about that, how we can create retrofit classes with there, how we can get access in a Kotlin. So if you are new, you just use my previous sessions, just watch that and learn it. So here I am giving a very simple example to you. So this is our retrofit service. Okay, so for this retrofit service, what to do? We have to return something, and first and foremost thing that we need a suspend function, as I already describe you in one of my session what is the use of suspend. Okay, and here you can say that get movies, and that movies be your a kind of response. So this is your response, retrofit response, and I want that response as in a list of movie. Okay, so that's a simple. And for that, this what you need, what we do, that is your get, and get for what's the name on our local host, that is called here movie list.json, or whatever be your PHP file, or whatever be your any server file, you can just put it here. So this is your movie list dot JSON. Okay, so that's interesting thing. That's very easy. Now we have to create our companion object, or I think we already described you what is the use of companion object, as we have done many times in our previous sessions. Okay, so now so for this we need a where retrofit service, and that is our class service, and for this you can choose it as a null. Okay, so here we have to return this thing here. So here I am creating a function get instance, and this is your retrofit service, and we need to return it. So for this returning, what to do? We need to return our retrofit service. Okay, so that means a simple function by which we can return our data. Okay, so I think that's a very simple concept. Because of one by one you can use it, practice it, and do this for the retrofit instances for the companion object. And if you still an issue, you just watch of my previous session in which I described each and everything, how we can use that retrofit and how can I get access the data in a retrofit as in a Kotlin part. So this is our retrofit dot builder. Okay, and but first we need to check it whether the service is null or not. So you can just check that this is your retrofit service is equals to null, then we go for this. Okay, and for that builder we need a base URL. So if we go for the builder, yes, so here you can put whatever be their URL. So at this time, if we have a local host, so you can just go for your 127.0.0 and whatever be your IP config, you just put it like this. Okay, so I will check it my config and use this later, but at this time I'm just using the base URL. You can check on your command, you can just use it. I think you already worked with this before, so just practice on. So once it's done, you can add a converter factory. So which kind of converter we needed? We needed a JSON converter. So we have a JSON converter factory. So it's just like as in a Java we have done many times, and dot create. Okay, and the last dot build. So that means this is our simple structure of this. So once it's done, you can use that retrofit service, and that retrofit service is a retrofit dot create. What we need to create? Retrofit service colons class.java. Okay, so that means that we return it. So there's a single line that we can get access our data here. So this is a simple structure by which we can find it. So this is your base URL. Whatever we use for the URL, you can use it, or either you make your static URL be here and use it anywhere. Okay, so that's a very simple structure. Before that we have worked with the Java, so on that scenario we make our classes be little bit different, but here we can use a companion object. So if you know about the singleton, so that singleton we already used in the Java, so the same we can make our companion. I think I already taken a class of the companion singleton, so these on my videos, so you can just check it what is the companion. Okay, so there a simple use of that. So you can create this get instance anywhere and use it. So that means it's just like your singleton. Okay, if I say that in a simple manner. So these to be ready. Now we need to fetch our data for in our repository class. So we need to create our class repository. So on the remote side, in the same remote, I am creating our class. This is called here repository. Okay, now what we needed for this class, we'll see one by one. So I think the basic thing you have learned, first whatever be your Json, you can make your data model class be like that. Then you have to create your retrofit service by which we can fetch our API data, and then we have to create a class by which we code it in a view model. That means we can get our data and then use it or show it into the view. So that's your MVVM approaches. Okay, so next step is repository. Okay, so after creating your retrofit service, we have to go for our repository. So for this, as we created a class repository, so here you need to work with your constructor. So I'm making a constructor, and that constructor I am passing the values of that private val, and that val is your retrofit service, and that service we can use it just to call the value suspend. Okay, no need of that because of we already. So here you can use the suspend function, and then suspend function that get all movies that you have to call, and that you need to call it by the retrofit service dot get movies. Okay, so here either you can make the same function, it depends on you. Okay, so you can call that on your view model classes. So now we have to create our view model on this category. So this is the step. First step, we have created our data movie class, then we go for our retrofit service, then we go for our repository, and now we have to work with our middle layer, that's our view model class. So we'll see how we can create it. Okay, so after creating the repository, we go for our view model, and that view model we have to create a movie view model. So on the Kotlin class, we have to say that movie view model. So everything we have to work on this model, because as in my previous sessions I told you many times that whenever you work with your view model, the all calculation, every work, every loading the data scenario, you have to put it on view model. So why we use view models, that's an important. And view you just use for the inputs and show the outputs, nothing else. So that's the work of view models here. Okay, now if you go for the constructor, you can just go for your constructor, and then you have to call that repository, because of on the repository we have to call our retrofit service, and in your view model we have to call our repository, because of we have to get data from the repository. So we have to use that repository here. That's very easy, and here you can extend it as an view model. Okay, so that means you have to create the constructor of the view model here, otherwise it can give you the issue. So now you have to get your movie list. So just you say that we have to work with our mutable live data. So you can use that as if you do not aware about that, what is that, the view model live data, that means you have to work with my previous sessions in which I already described how we can use the mutable live data, and here we can use that mutable live data as per discussion previously here with your coroutines. Okay, so that is the most important, and here you can just go for your list, and you want that list as a movie. Okay, so that's be very easy, and you have to call it like this. Okay, so the first thing is there, and one more important thing is there, we need to handle the job here. So you can just say that handle job, and you can say that this is your job of coroutines. So what is the use of job of coroutines? We'll see the practically, that is also be the most important. Okay, so you can say that alt enter, these two things be ready. Now the third step is, for that you have to create a function in which you can get movies. Okay, so we have to create the 3 movies functions. Number 1 in your retrofit service, by which we can fetch our data from the Json, then that Json we have to pass it here on your repository, and that repository you can pass it here on the movie list here on the view model, and that view model we can show it on your view. Okay, on your activity. So now, but this is important thing, and lot of things we have to handle inside your view model. We'll see one by one. So the first step, you have to create that, then you go for the job and make a function. Now how we can use it, we'll learn how we can use that job here in a function. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. Okay, so after creating a simple steps of movie list, handle job and the get movies, so what to do, we just first go for the errors which throw by if there be some error message from your retrofit size. So we need it as a error, you can say that message, and that message you can use it as a mutable live data, and that live data I am using as a string kind and then bracket. So this is a simple error message we have to work with, and now we have to go for how this error message be used. So you can use it as an exception, and you can use that exception handle, and that exception handle we'll see here, you can find it exception handler. Okay, so you can say that coroutine exception handler on the top, so we want that, and you can say that coroutine exception handler. So this is the basic thing, and in this scenario what to do, we need exception handler be like not this, we make it like this function, and pass some values be here. That means we have to make our customize. So first field is your empty, and don't want to go with the any size, we just go for your throwable. So you can just put it at throwable, and that throwable you can pass it with your function that is called your on error, and under on error you have to put whatever be you want on. So I want exception, and that exception I want to throw, and under that you just use it with the dollar, and the dollar you can just put it as in a bracket, and here you can throw able dot localize messages. But the problem is that we need on error, so you say function that's called your on error. So leave that function be here. So this is your simple step. What to do? You just go for your error message, you just create your custom error message, and that throw by the coroutine exception handler, that is an important handler, and this is your on error, and this is our main function in which we have to work with our job, and that exception handler we can throw it here also. So let's see how to do with this. Okay, so now we have to go for the next step. Here you can use a loading val. So this loading you can work with your mutable, that means sometimes we need it for the progress bar values, so you can just check it whether it is false or true, so you can make it as a boolean, and that boolean, this is your mutable type data. Okay, so how to do with this get movies? So for this we need a job, so this is your handle job, and that handle job we have to work with this. How we can use this? This is your coroutine scope, and that coroutine scope is your, what to do for this coroutine scope? You use dispatchers. So here that is the most important class of the coroutines, that is IO. By that you can use that dispatchers. Okay, and on the dispatchers, what to do? You can add your any value. That means what to do with that values? This is your exception handler. Okay, and once this done you can use that launch. Okay, so these are simple launching what we need it. And here what to do on inside, once you launch it handler, you can use responses. So you can use val response, and that response you need it as what we pass it here, repository. So this is your repository dot get movies. Okay, so by that we can fetch all our data, and you can use also with the with context, and that context what we need it, this is your dispatcher dot main, and that main dispatcher of this coroutine functionality we can check that if response dot, that's very easy, is successful, so you can use whatever you want, and else you can use whatever you want. That's very easy work whenever you on the two step by which you can find it everything with a coroutine scope. Okay, and here you can use your movie list once it's come on your successful, so you can pass it as a movie list, and that movie list dot post value, and that post value you can pass it as a response dot body. So easy. And here you can just say that your loading is false, so dot value is equals to false. Okay, so that means this success be done and our loading value be false on that cases. So this is done. And what to do on error? If there is something else, so you can pass it as an error, and whatever be your error, you can show it as your colon, that's your dollar, and inside that whatever be you want it. So you can say that response dot if there is your message or error body, whatever way you want to do that. Okay, I am passing the message. So that's very easy. So on that, your on error message, what to do, this is your error message dot value is your whatever be the message, so we create it. Okay, and here your loading dot value, that also become a false on that case. So I think that's very easy work whenever you do with this simple functionalities of the get movies. Then you call it on your view. One more thing, a small thing we have to work, but the important thing is how we can get data on the view with here. Let's see how to apply. And one important thing is that whenever you work with your these stuffs, for the memory leaking, what to do, you can just create one more function that is called your on cleared. So you can see that this is your on cleared, and in this on cleared you just your job you can cancel it here. So that means it avoid your memory leaking be there. So that's very easy. Okay, so you can do it with their question mark. So everything is ready, and now we have to create a view model factory, so by which we can show it on your view. Okay, so you can say that this is your movie view model factory. This is our class, and under that class what to do, you can create your constructor, and this is your repository, and that repository, this is our repository by which we can call it, and you can extend it as a view model provider dot factory. Okay, so we can use it and say alt enter implement method. So we'll discuss about this method, how we can implement this. Okay, so that's a very basic structures, and when it happen we can create the two more things. That's how we can get the data here, and the other thing is on adapter, how we can bind it. So we can check all these stuffs, but the main work is we have done on your view model. That is the most important part of this complete session. Okay, so let's see how we can create our view model factory. First you need to delete that, and then you have to create a value. So that means you can say that val repository, and that is your repository be here. So and on this we have to return, and then we return with your if condition. First we have to check that our model class is that type of view models or not. So you can say that this is your movie view model or not. So you first check that, and you can say that double colon class.java. So if it is that, and so we have to apply that our movie view model, and here we have to pass that this repository as we have done as a T. Okay, and now otherwise we have to go for our else part, and on this else condition we have to throw it with your illegal argument exception, and you can say that this illegal argument exception, you can say view model not found. I think it's very simple, and 2-line code you have to do. You just check your view model and then use it. So as I discussed in my previous sessions, if there be a multiple view models on that case, what to do with your view model factory. So you just read that and learn that from my previous sessions, and I will apply, or I will do that more session related to the basics things of that. Okay, so just these two will happen, and now we have to go for our movie adapters and then view part. So our only view face be remaining, on which we have to check that how we can show these values below. So that means our backend work be ready. That means middle layer and the last layer we have done. Now we have to go for our view layers. So how we can show that? So let's see. Okay, so the next step is you have to create a adapter. So for this, on the separate folder of adapter, you just create a new class Kotlin, and that Kotlin class you can create it as a movie adapter. Okay, and one more thing, if you want to work with the binding technique, so you can use your build features view binding through here. Otherwise you can make a very simple adapter. So I used on both ways before, if you watch my sessions. Okay, and here you just say that this is your class, and under the class you have to create your movie view folder. So here we try to binding if possible, otherwise we can use it. So so here we have a two kind of bindings. So we are working with the movie layout, so we can use that movie layout binding here, and just column, this is your recycler view, and that recycler view dot view holder, and inside that view holder we can say that binding dot root. So this very first basic steps whenever you work it, and here you can just extend your values be here. So you can just use it your column recycler view dot adapter, and inside your adapter what to do, you can use your movie view holder. Okay, and your control enter, and then you just create your the values be here whatever be, and we'll see what happen on that case. Implement methods, yes, you can just make all the methods and say okay, everything be ready. And on the top what to do, you just use a where movie list, and that list be your mutable list of movie. So that means these basic things be ready, and alt enter, import the file, and that's your movie model. Okay, now we have to implement this and then call it on your view. So that's the basic scenario we have to work. So now we'll see how we can do that. Okay, so on the next step, what to do on create holder, on bind view holder, or get item count. So first we have to return the values of the item count as in a movie list. So you can say that this is your return for movie list dot size. So that's we have to return simply, and I think that is, yeah. And now we have to go for a next, that is called your on create view holder. And then on create view holder, what to do, you just create a inflator for that. So for that, what to do, we have simply a val, and that's your inflator. You can use that inflator, and that is called your layout. inflator, and that layout inflator dot from, you can use that parent. Parent is your view, parent, and that parent dot we have a context. Okay, and by this context we have to pass, because of we do not need be like that pass we as we have done in the Java. You just directly use the context here, whatever be, and here you can use your binding that we need to pass it. Okay, and here our binding is for as we have done or our movie layout binding. Okay, so here we have done the movie layout binding, and that on that movie layout binding, what we have done, we are using that binding with your inflator. Okay, so we can use that inflate, and this is your inflator, and that inflator we can use with the parent, and then we have to use with the false. Okay, so everything be ready, and now we have to return, so you can use that return with your movie view holder, and inside we use that binding. Okay, so this is, that means we are using this binding with the movie holder. We pass that binding as in a movie layout binding, so it become very easy for us. And now for your bind view holder, what to do on the next step, you can just simply create a movie, and that movie is your movie list, and that movie list you just put it with the position, and you can just say that position be there, whatever be the position you can just pass it. And here we have a holder, and that holder dot binding, whatever be the name, and here binding dot name dot text, you just use it as a movie name. Okay, movie dot name. So for this binding we have to check that our movie layout inflator, so here we have a name binding. Okay, so that's very simple scenario, and here we have a image view also. So on adapter we have to use the Picasso also, as we have done with the Picasso. So for the Picasso you can say that get dot load, and that load is your movie, and dot image URL, whatever be that, and that you have to use dot into, and that you have to pass that holder dot binding, directly we can pass it with the image view. So I think everything be ready. And one more thing is that is important, every time we need to update it, so we have to work with your notification notify change, so that we also be needed, and then we use it on the view. So these are very simple steps whenever you work with. So let's see how we can do that. Okay, on the next step, what to do, you just create one more function here, and that is related to you have to set your values be here. So you can just simply say that fun set movies, and you can just pass it that movie, and here we have to create a list of movies. So do one thing, you just say that list of movie, so we can update it. And here you can say that this dot movie list, and that is equals to your movies dot to immutable list, or just a minute, to mutable list. Okay, so that's you have to set it, and here you can just check it with the notify data set change, so we can check our values here. So everything is ready, and now we have to go for our main activity. So here we have to call everything be there. So we have to work with the binding, we have to work with our adapter here, and then run that program, how we can use this. So simple scenario we have done. Now we have to work with the view. Okay, so let's started with simple values. So here you can say that let init where, and this is your view model, and that view model you have to create for a main view model, sorry, movie view model. Okay, so once this done, you have to create instance for the adapter. So that's your values adapter, and that is your movie adapter. Okay, and the third step is your binding. So you can say that binding, and that binding is your activity main binding. Okay, and for this activity main binding, what to do, you just use a simple binding technique. So here you can just say the binding, and this is your activity binding, and that you have to inflate, and that inflate you have to use your layout inflator. Okay, it automatically be created, not to be work with that any layout inflator and get instance for that. So it's in Kotlin, it's automatically get values on that inflator. Okay, and in your set content view you have to pass that binding, just simply binding dot root. So everything is ready, and now we have to go for our simply retrofit instance or repository values or view model. So first we have to go for our view model. So that's view model, and that is called your view model provider, and that provider you just pass it with this comma your view model factory. What is that? Yeah, this is our movie view model factory, and inside you have to pass your repository. So for this you have to create a repository, but for that we need it a well. First we need it a retrofit instance, because of we have to call this service. So this is your retrofit service, and dot get instance we have created, and after that you have to create a main repository. These things you have to work in view model also, we'll tell you later, but at this time you just use simply repository, and you can say that this is your main repository, this is your repository. What's the name of that repository? Yeah, this is a simply repository, and you have to pass your retrofit service here simply, and you have to call with your view model factory. So what to do, you just pass that view model factory with a repository, because of we have a pass values of the value of a repository values on that. Okay, and here you can just say simply get, and on that get you have to check that which class you have to call. So here I am using the movie view model class dot java. Okay, so that's a very simple structure or simple scenario in which we have to work. So these two things you can we can build it in the view model inside also, but here we are passing these values, nothing else. So here we can create that view model. So now we have to go for the next step also, and then we can check that how we can call our value. So otherwise you can just simply call it your view model dot your get movies also. That's very simple, but we have to work a lot of things inside also, how this works with the retrofit call also. So let's see. Okay, now this very simple structure scenario we have created for the view, and the last we have to observe the things. So first we have to bind our view model recycler view. So this is our binding dot recycler view, and that recycler view dot adapter, we are using our adapter. Okay, so that means we have just simply passed that recycler view adapter. Very easy. And if you go with your view model, so you can just say that view model, and that view model dot your movie list be there, and that you have to observe, and that observe is for this. Okay, so first we have to check that which observe on that. So here for these observations, what we need it to set the movies. So you can just set adapter dot set movies, which we created, and that movies with your IT values. Okay, so this is simple structures of the view model. We have to pass for that. So that's a simple movie list structure. And here if to go for your error list, so you can just say the error message of observe, and in this observe you can again pass this, and then check that whatever be the error list there. So you can put the toast on that. So this to be a very simple handler, we can use it for the view model. Okay, and if you want to go for your progress bar or a progress load, so as we have done our view model, and that view model dot loading we have done on that cases, and dot observe, you can observe all these things very easily. So this, and if you go with that observer, you can just simply that you have to check that if it belongs, so that means you can just binding dot your progress dialog dot visibility, you just use it gone or not. So you can say that view dot visible dot visible okay, view dot visible if there are nothing, then else you can just be the part, and then you just simply say that binding dot gone. So this is your gone case. So this is the rare if you want to work, otherwise no need of this. So just main thing is this is binding, this is your retrofit surface which call the view model, and that view model adapters the set values, and then your error message. So it is a secondary thing. If you want to go for this, you just call that view model dot get movies. So these simple scenario we created. Now we see that what happened in this. So let's see. Okay, so if you see the example here, you can see that here we can load all the movies, and all taxes be of the movies be there. Okay, so you can use that this kind of stuffs, and make whatever be you want. You can just click on clickable make it, and just go for the description of that particular movie. So same, it is a simple example, and I think that is on in many sites on net, but you can just check it how we can work actually. This is a simple practical, we can just work on that. Okay, so you just basic things you have to learn on that coroutines, and do the practice on that, and I will describe you more functionality related to the coroutines in my coming session, and also we'll discuss about more about the live data and coroutines functionalities. So just continue this tour and work hard. Thank you so much for this video.